Hello and welcome. My name is Gail Green, and I am the Hamilton County Republican Party Chairwoman. And I am so excited to be here today with our county mayor, Weston Wamp. And Mayor, we're going to get right into the interview if that's okay with you. I know you have a busy schedule, but please introduce yourself to the people of Hamilton County. Tell us your name. We already know you're the mayor, so you don't have to tell us your position, but how long have you been serving?
My name's Weston Wamp. I grew up here, local guy, grew up on Big Ridge and Hickson and lived in Lookout Valley for a while and live with you on Signal Mountain. Our family moved there about 14 months ago. And I've been serving in this role for 3 years and 1 month and 1 day as of the recording of this video.
It's very exact. Well, tell us a little bit about your family and what inspired you to run for office.
I can tell, like all of us, like I can tell you all about my family and the things that matter the most to me. My mom's family moved here. Both of her grandfathers moved here from Middle Tennessee for jobs at DuPont and working class people. I'm the first person in my mom's family to get a college degree. That's where a lot of my curiosity and interest in career and technical education comes from. My dad's parents were both raised in rural Coleman, Alabama. My grandfather became an architect. He designed about 1,200 buildings. One of the most prolific architects in this area's history. My dad's younger brother and older brother are also architects and musicians. We're really the black sheeps of the Wamp family, but because they are all great artists and musicians, and I can't draw or play music. And so the black sheeps of the family got into politics because my dad was a local Republican activist. He was the party chairman, I believe, when I was born in 1987. He's, I think to this day, still the youngest Republican Party chairman here in the county and was involved with wires before that. He had a real interesting past. The Lord gave him a second chance after, a real kind of fall into addiction. And he came out of it wanting to just serve others and be involved in campaigns. Never saw himself running, but he did. He ran unsuccessfully in 1992. I was 5 years old. And that began, actually 1991 is when that campaign began. So I was 4 years old when my parents, my mom, probably somewhat begrudgingly, my dad had it in his blood, they entered politics in our family. I grew up on the campaign trail. It's an unusual way to grow up. When I was 7, my dad got elected to Congress, and that was just a defining experience because for all of my elementary, middle school, high school, college years, we were a congressional family. My dad traveled back and forth to Washington, usually 4 days a week. In the Gingrich era, it was like 5 days a week, and enjoyed it. I didn't know anything else. So a lot of people ask, "What's it like growing up around politics?" And I'm like, "Well, what's it like not growing up around a bunch of
Yeah.
politicians?" Because it's a self-important culture. Like politicians tend to think a lot of themselves, and I probably was a little bit too self-important as a kid. And the older I got, the better I feel like I got to know some of my dad's peers in Washington. Is I love my dad. My dad and I are close friends to this day. But my politics are not really inspired by him. So much of my life is the way that I'm a parent. Maybe more important things are. But my interest in public service and government politics was more prodded, and it developed as I got to know Dr. Tom Coburn. I'd known him my whole life, basically. I mean, from elementary school on, he was the consummate conservative in the U.S. Senate for many years. They nicknamed him Dr. No, based on his willingness to say no, and all other politicians would say yes to spending any kind of money. And he just an incredibly principled physician. He was an OBGYN and business person who self-imposed term limits on himself when he went to the U.S. House. Left and served in the U.S. Senate, and just a really amazing, honorable man. And so even though I'd always grown up in politics, I never really saw myself in it, or never really had developed a lot of my own thoughts about government and what it looks like to be an effective leader until I started studying Dr. Coburn's leadership style. And by the time I was in high school and college, he would give me a hard time. And then after college, when I ran for Congress, he was always sort of the model to me, model of what a citizen legislator looked like, and somebody who was willing to lead with courage. Our country was built on the backs of men and women who've led with great courage. So that's in a nutshell. I did grow up around politics. It's really people I met through that process who got me thinking that I would like to serve in some capacity.
And what about your beautiful wife and children? Let quickly tell us about them.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, I ran in 2022. At that time, we had four children, and I talked a lot about how I thought it would be interesting for our community and maybe even cool and helpful if a parent was serving in one of these roles that typically and when I say parent, I mean a parent of young children, somebody who's kind of in the throes of it, like you and I are.
Yeah.
And because these are positions that are typically held by older people, I'd still say a lot of times I feel like my job, Shelby's not very political. I find that to be delightful and helpful. When I go home, it's not political at all. But she's supportive and she's interested in it. And, every once in a while she'll get sharp spouse elbows if she thinks people are giving me a hard time. But sometimes she probably thinks I deserve to be given a hard time also. But I look more and more as I enter my fourth year in office. I look at it like I've got an audience of five as a county mayor, because I really, at the end of the day, care the most about my kids thinking that do a good job. And most of them are too young to appreciate that now. And so a lot of times I tell people, I really think at this point, I'm trying to do a really good job for them. And I'm hoping that 15 years from now, they'll be able to assess, and analyze some of the things that we're doing now and feel like their dad made a positive contribution in our community. And they're just a lovely bunch of kids. We have four boys and a girl, and they're into flag football and soccer. And it's a really fun aspect of my life, because no matter how thick the political drama gets on any given day, we're throwing football in the yard, at 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate your perspective, and I can't really fathom how you do it with all of the responsibilities of your job. And that's the next thing I want to ask you about. Can you talk a little bit about what are those primary responsibilities, and how do you? I mean, your answer is I feel like, going to be very different than everyone else's, because you serve a lot of people in Hamilton County. You might know the exact number and be able to tell us, but what would you say are the essential duties of the mayor?
Yeah. Well, I think the latest population estimate has Hamilton County at about 385,000 people.
Okay.
It's a big, amazing county. It's extremely rural in the northern 10 or 12 miles. The suburbs are where, a lot of our great neighborhoods and quality of life, our reputation for quality of life is in those communities, from Signal Mountain to Appleton to Ottawa, Middle Valley, Hickson, where I grew up. And then, in the southern part of the county is mostly the city of Chattanooga, and downtown's concentrated in the southwest corner. State law defines the role of the county mayor as both the chief executive officer of the county and also the chief financial officer. You are the fiscal agent of the county. I think our legislature made an interesting decision going back to 1978 to use a structure that is more often seen in municipal government, where you have a mayor who has executive authority and runs the day-to-day operations, and then you have a legislative body that legislates and creates rules and has final say as far as purse strings go. Some counties, have a different commission style. Our neighbors in Georgia have a much different. Being a county commissioner means something different in Georgia, and that's probably pretty confusing for people on both sides of the state line. But in Tennessee, you've got 92 elected county mayors, I think, and then 3 metro mayors. State law allows you to become a metropolitan area, but basically everybody gets a county mayor. And of course, the job looks very different in a smaller county than a big county. But our job spans everything from, funding of education, and we work very closely on education facilities with the school board, superintendent, his staff, to workforce development. Very involved in the local workforce development board, economic development, where often we're partners with the city of Chattanooga and the state. A big focal point for our administration has been working with the state. Hamilton County is a subdivision of the state of Tennessee. We only have powers that are given to us through state law and through the state constitution. And we've got a really effective Republican-led delegation here in Hamilton County. And so we've tried to shore up those relationships, but then also develop really strong relationships across all the departments of state government. Governor Lee is a friend. I'm friends with most of his commissioners. Stuart McWhorter is an example of one, the Commissioner of Economic and Community Development, who we work very closely with on issues related to the quality of life in Hamilton County and certainly the economy. And then, our roles and responsibilities on any given day. It could be roads and county infrastructure. It could be a parks issue. The county runs a countywide ambulance services, 18 ambulances that are ready to go 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And so that, there's so many different sides of the job that it's a thrill. Weeks feel like days as a result, because a lot of people will talk about their employment, their job on a basis of no day looks the same. This job has to be maybe the furthest extreme example of that.
Yeah, that's actually, one of my next questions is tell us about a typical work week. And I don't know that that's possible for you. I know that you have the Medal of Honor. Um, I guess, what did we say? The convention was in town this week. And so you probably have to put a lot of focus on that. But just maybe combine a couple of questions. The next one was going to be, what do you love most about your job? So maybe you can talk about a work week that you've really enjoyed, or something that you're really looking forward to that you
Yeah,
there.
I'll try to do both. I mean, I could talk on and on about the privilege of serving in this role, particularly as a younger guy. I've got gray hair to show that I'm not as young as people sometimes act like I am. Uh, but to be able to serve in this role while I'm raising kids in this community is a huge honor. There's not a day I've walked in this office and not felt really privileged to be able to do this job and serve our county. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, there are days that are tough. Politics can be a weird blood sport, but it's a tremendous honor. And I encourage anybody who is ever doing this, whoever doesn't enjoy it, to leave. Like, let the next person run and serve, because there's a lot of us who, even on the bad days, are really grateful to have the opportunity. The thing I love the most about the work is that in local government, which is a lot like state government, but state government's bigger and moves a little bit slower, and it's completely different than the federal government. In local government, we are able to do what we say, and we're held accountable to it, and we can move pretty fast. And what I mean by that is you can run for Congress, which I've done before in my 20s, and you're talking in an idealistic fashion about the things you believe in and hope to happen. But realistically, one of 435 members of the U.S. House is going to have, especially today, as dysfunctional as Congress can be, is going to have very little impact on that thing. But you're a spokesperson for your district, and it's important work. But here, if we say we're going to go and renovate a school, the public will say, okay. Or they may say, we don't like that idea. They may support you, but then they're going to expect you to do it, right?
Yeah.
And deliver on what you said. I like that pressure. When I ran, I talked about how I thought there should be term limits on this position. That was very controversial. And then basically said that I would, regardless, hold myself to term limits, because I thought it would create it's a forcing mechanism of sorts, so that we have pressure coming in every day for 4 years, hoping that the work we do in the first 4 years will give us an opportunity to serve the second 4 years of what Shelby and I committed to in our families, this 8-year commitment. And I think that's what I love the most, is you can dream a big dream. And we've actually got one of these that'll be announced in the next few weeks. And it's the kind of big dream that we really only cooked up in the spring. And in the fall, we'll announce it as mostly complete. And that is very different than the way that things work, at a federal government level. And so you got to be careful with that. In some ways, I would say you got to be careful with how fast local government can move, so that you're judicious and you're being a good steward of tax dollars. Real quickly about my week, it changes a lot. I think I've gotten better at managing time. It changes for me, school year versus not school year. I'm actually more available early in the morning in the summer, because I violated it this morning because of the Medal of Honor breakfast kicking off. We had 35 Medal of Honor recipients here. I felt like I should be in a suit and tie greeting them. Normally, I like to walk my kids to the bus stop. It's about a quarter of a mile from our house. That's fun time. I walk with them, talk to them, pray with them, hang out with them. And that's a great way to start your day.
Yep.
So I'm not a real early starter, because I like to be at home and see my kids off to school. And then, every day is different. We start Mondays with a small staff meeting just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Every other week, we have a large staff meeting of department heads across county government. And you can imagine, as big as the county is, I'd say one kind of guiding principle is if we're moving out to the east part of the county and we're going up to the north part of the county, on those trips, you're trying to, kill two or three birds with one stone when you're driving that far out. But there are a lot of days. There are a lot of days where I'm in the mayor's office right now. Beautiful office that Claude Ramsey had renovated, and he took some flack for, but I'm grateful to him. It's a great place to come to work. There are a lot of days where my whole day will be here. All of a sudden it'll be 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I realize I never left, I never ate lunch, and I ought to pace myself a little better the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna end with what I think is an important question. When are you up for reelection, and what do you want the voters of Hamilton County, the Republican voters specifically of Hamilton County, to know about you?
I'm up for reelection in what will be the Republican primary the first week of May of 2026, and then hopefully a general election that'll follow in August. There's a lot of things I'd like Republican voters to know. One is I'm just very grateful to serve. I barely won a contested primary. I felt like I was the most conservative person running. One thing I would want Republicans to know is I think I've demonstrated I'm the most conservative person to ever serve in this role. I don't know that I'm the most conservative person ever, but I think I'm the most conservative person to lead in county government. And I've taken that seriously because I said it on the campaign trail. I would want Republican voters to know that we've done a lot of what we said we'd do. We've got a lot of work left to do, but if you go back and kind of look at what I spent a lot of my time talking about in 2022, that's where we spent most of our effort here. We've tried to be good steward of tax dollars. We've tried to kind of take on some of the status quo that was it's kind of understandable, but there had not been an open seat election for county mayor since 1994. So 28 years had gone by without the people getting to say, of these people, here's who we pick. What are the expectations? What's going to change? Obviously, career and technical education, school facilities, roads and infrastructure. We've tried to think more methodically about planning because we see growth that's outstripped infrastructure. So that's something that we've tried to change what has been a mindset in the county that all growth is good. That really was kind of what we inherited, was this, the more growth, the better. And we realized that we crossed probably somewhere 5 to 10 years ago. I think we crossed a line where growth really began to injure the quality of life in our community. So how can we be conservative conservationists when we have an opportunity? How can we think more methodically about infrastructure? And one of the most important components of infrastructure, but we forget about it, is a really high functioning public school system. Like, for example, in Northeast Hamilton County, you don't have a school in the upper 12, 13 miles of the county. So you really want, and this is part of what I'd say to Republican voters, is I think I've demonstrated a willingness to say the hard things, sometimes the unpopular things, stand up for our values, stand up for kids, and then lead to the best of my ability in doing a job where you're never going to make anybody happy. So I know that. I think if I was telling it, if it ever seems like I'm telling everybody what they want to hear, then we've all got a problem, And so I ask for enough grace that we're, those of us, on the right side of the aisle, that we're agreeing most of the time, pushing in a direction where we're honoring everything that we've inherited in this community and trying to be good stewards as we chart the course for all of mine and your kids. And we've got a lot of them combined.
That's right. I think half the kids on Signal Mountain might be between your family and
Yeah.
mine. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this in your hectic schedule. And I want you to know that I just appreciate so much what you said about, the precious time that you get to spend with your family. And I appreciate that you lead by example and you make walking your kids to school a priority, and just you have a big responsibility. So we're grateful for your service and that you're willing to do it at your age with young children, because I agree. I think it's very important that people like us with little kids, have a say in what's going on in our community right now. It's really important. So thank you for your time, and God bless you. And I hope the people of Hamilton County enjoy this. And if they have any questions or want to reach out to you about anything specific, I'm going to encourage them to look up your office and give you a shout.
Thanks, Gail.
Thank you.